You've just landed on Claritas, a city on Mars built without bosses, without headquarters, without a single CEO. Sounds impossible? Good. That's exactly why you're here. Bun's got the skeptical questions, George's got the explanations. Try not to fall asleep during his thoroughness.
Welcome, Jor. Today we are discussing the dual modules of the Intelligence Consortium. Can you explain why a consortium needs both an institutional module and an action module?
Think of it like a neural network. You can't train the network while also rewriting its architecture in the same operation. The institutional module is the architecture design. It sets the rules, the network structure, and the operating parameters. The action module is the actual forward computation and training. It's where the consortium interacts with the external world. The critical constraint is that the institutional module must be built first. You can't execute a business plan until you've defined how decisions get made, how influence is allocated, and how rewards flow back. Without this separation, you'd be rewriting the voting rules mid-execution. Chaos.
How does the institutional module ensure that influence is allocated fairly according to G%?
The key mechanism is the voting weight structure, G%. Your uncompleted rights conversion in this consortium as a share of the total directly maps to your voting weight in the institutional module. Since the institutional module has only one drive form, voting on architecture and rules, it can actually apply G% proportionally, unlike the action module, where influence is exercised through messy things like suggestions and supervision that are hard to quantify. This is why the book prescribes that the institutional module must be built first. It's where you lock in the fair allocation before anyone starts executing.
How does an executing entity differ from the consortium itself?
The executing entity is just a legal shell. A traditional company that signs contracts, holds bank accounts, and employs people. The consortium itself is the organizational network of all members making decisions through the institutional and action modules. The critical advantage is separability. If the executing entity goes bankrupt or gets sued, the consortium's information system, consensus protocols, and member relationships remain intact. You can spin up a new executing entity and continue operating without dissolving the organization. The book calls this organizational structure separated from its legal vehicle.
Since the consortium can survive the loss of its executing entity, how does decentralized storage protect its rules and consensus?
The institutional module's rules, consensus records, and member ledgers aren't stored on any single server. They're distributed across all organizational individuals. When the executing entity collapses, those files don't vanish with it. The book explicitly notes, information and institutions belong to all organizational individuals and can be stored in a decentralized manner. So you can reconstitute the consortium by spinning up a new executing entity and reloading the existing consensus. No need to renegotiate everything from scratch. The legal shell dies, the organizational memory survives.
How does the analogy of forward computation apply to the action module in practice?
Forward computation is the action module taking the architecture designed by the institutional module and running real inputs through it. Actual business decisions, customer interactions, procurement choices. Each sub-network processes its domain. One handles show production, another manages distribution. The training part is the back propagation of reward differentials. When actual outcomes deviate from expectations, that error signal flows back to adjust how drive nodes influence future actions. It's the consortium learning from external feedback in real time.
How does the initial design of the network structure get established in the institutional module?
The initial network structure is established through a vote by the initial potential organizational individuals, the people who will actually form the consortium. They negotiate and vote on the architecture, operating rules, and runtime parameters before any action begins. The book calls this the meta-consensus protocol, the first egg created by the initiator. It's preset at construction, like software initialization parameters, and only later can it be modified by all existing organizational individuals through the same voting mechanism.
Thank you, Jor, for clarifying how the dual modules and structural design shape the Intelligence Consortium. That concludes our interview.
So the whole dual modules thing boils down to this. You don't rewrite the rules of the game while you're still playing it. Architecture first, action second. Mess that up and you get chaos. But here's what Jara conveniently skipped over. Once information starts spreading one-to-many across that network, hiding anything becomes nearly impossible. Next time we're digging into how that exposure actually works. Some of you probably think redundancy is waste. You're wrong, but I'll let Jara explain why next episode.